Everybody, welcome back to Contest Prep University. Joe Klemczewski with Adam Atkinson. This week, we're going to talk about a topic that I think is sensationally needed, and it's about some of the mental and physical ramifications of going deeply into prep, specifically how it can affect different people in different ways. And Adam, the reason this resonated so much with me is I have just done a couple podcasts and interviews talking specifically about hormones. It kind of started with Austin Kiergaard and I doing a Peak Intel Contest Prep University episode on the topic. And I made a comment a couple different times that started getting some traction with people. And that is that, of all the reasons we could want to be leaner, healthier, more athletic, more functional, obviously all very positive for overall health, there is some potential risk. And especially when you willfully go to a level that your body perceives as potentially starvation, there can be injury, there can be insult, there can be epigenetic change that is lasting. So I want to talk about some of those things on the physical side because I want people to be aware, and maybe you just don't have the phenotype to go the distance. Maybe it's too much of a cost for you. Maybe you'll risk your health in ways that you regret forever. And physique sport just genetically is not your best game. For other people, it can be, but it's still psychologically, socially, mentally tough. We know that, and that can impact us in different ways. But before we start unraveling all of this, you brought up the fact that the client needs to be aware of this, but so does the coach. If somebody is being coached, can you handle it? Are you aware of these facets, and can your coach handle it? So open up that a little bit for me and give me some of your insight.
Well, I think this is where people can make the selection of like what coach is right for them. So we kind of have to start at the interview process. Like, what does this client need or think they need to succeed? And is the coach willing and able to give that? Do they have the time to give that? I always say this. I always tell clients that my answer is never no, but sometimes that they're asking for something, maybe a little bit not within normal scope of coaching. I've had clients who are like, I need a phone call every day. I'm like, obviously I can't do that at the same price point that I do my normal coaching, but you figure it out and you figure out what people need. And I think that kind of starts with the initial discussion. So, is the coach ready? Is the client ready, to make those changes? And there may be things that you don't know that you think you need or may end up needing through the process to be supported through the prep. And then that comes down to, is it realistic? Um, I think the hand holding posts drive me nuts. Like coaches are like, I'm not going to hold your hand. Well, obviously, no one can do this for you, but I don't think we should be sending the message to clients that no coach is going to hold your hand because there's coaches out there that have one or two clients and they probably charge more and they can probably hold your hand through the whole process. They can't do it for you, but I think we send that message too often. I'm not going to hold your hand. And it's like, well, I might hold your hand, but it's going to come at an expensive price point.
Mhm. You're really reminding me of both sides of that coin. And I have a lot of friends who are mental health therapists. We used to employ a health psychologist. And it is a delicate dance because, yes, we all want support. And yes, we can all use camaraderie and partnership. And as you mentioned, that can come in different forms. Some people feel like they need it in different ways, frequency and style. But at the same time, you have to be careful that you as a coach aren't creating codependency and just feeding into ultimate disillusionment or untenable failure. So I don't want to make this sound demeaning, but it's almost developmentally like you would perceive yourself parenting a child. And what I mean by not being demeaning is our job is not to parent our clients, but at the same time, you always want that nurturing side, you want that care, you want to create security, but there still has to be instruction, there still has to be guidance. And the ultimate goal is for somebody to stand on their own and be independent and strong. We want that for everybody who we care about, especially our clients. And so, maybe even describing that at times instead of just as a coach trying to, um, walk that line on your own, talk to the client, say, I'm really getting this sense that, would you be able to do this on your own? Are we creating enough strength and resilience and independence for you? Because I am somebody who gives and gives and gives. I want to be there for my clients. I want to make sure that wherever they are in terms of personality, psychology, and process in their career, that they're getting the support they need. Uh, like you said, you can't go overboard with everybody all the time. But on that note of just the physical cost, because this is when it gets tough for everybody. Some people psychologically may feel like they want more support and they need more words of affirmation, so to speak. Um, we're all going to hit a point, for example, as hormones start to decline, thyroid hormones come down, testosterone and other androgens come down. You're just not feeling as energetic. Mood can decline, more than 50 hormones in our body, and they almost all touch mood at some level. Things are just going to get tough. And how do you explain that to a client? Is it just like, toughen up and take it? This is what the cost of winning is, or what kind of solace are you trying to incorporate in that?
That's a good question because I literally had this with a client the other day. Um, you almost need to sometimes formulate a backup plan like, hey, if this gets too difficult, it's not we pull completely out of the race, but maybe we move the date. But also, I think you have to know your people well when you bring up plan B, because you do have those clients. If there's a plan B, they're always going to choose the plan B. So sometimes as a coach in your mind, you have to have the plan B ready, just in case, and then pull that trigger at the right time. Or else plan B can just always, I had that happen with a client, this year we were getting ready for nationals and, the timeline was strict after regional show. And I said, you're just not ready for nationals. So we pulled out of that one. And I said, we've got 8 weeks till, Masters Nationals. Let's get ready for that one. Time was wasted. And then, playing C comes and, time was wasted. We didn't make that one. And I feel like I tried to, cater as many plan Bs as possible and really implement, hey, we need to go now, even though we like extended this timeline. And at the end of the day, you can kind of tell a client till you're blue in the face. And I'm willing to do that for an extended amount of time. But you want to try to find the angle that finally that hits for that client, and sometimes they need someone else to tell them to do it versus you. Sometimes they need to give up that one thing, like maybe family flexibility that's making it difficult for them to achieve their goal. Like, we kind of knew where the downfalls were. This was a case where I was unsuccessful as a coach on getting that person to go to the next level, even though I was trying everything, every tool I had in the toolbox. And the funny thing is about that case, it may be a situation where the next coach tells them and it just clicks and they tell them the exact same thing. Or it may just be a continual habit that they don't break.
It has taken me a long time to realize as a coach, been doing this now for 30 years, that you just can't take those kind of things personally. And I have a couple of stories that dovetail right into what you were saying. A client of mine just recently, I mean, I've helped this guy win a couple pro cards. He looks phenomenal. He's got a great physique. And he was disillusioned at around mid-year this year and said, "Hey, I want to hire a different coach. I don't feel like you're responsive enough." And I said, "Wow, I actually seek you out consistently. I'm available 5 to 6 days a week. I'm never not answering communication. On contest days, it's literally hour by hour communication. Said, I'm really shocked that you feel like I'm not giving you enough support. And he said, well, there's this coach here in my own town. I can see him at the gym. We can hang out. He can go to my local shows. And he's somebody you would never hear of, Adam. I don't, yeah, he doesn't have any education in nutrition or exercise science, and he's just not a high name coach. Maybe a great guy. So this particular client does a couple shows, looks horribly flat. Clearly this coach is going to have a learning curve with a new client, as anybody would. But my client sacrificed some wins and some potential really good um, placings at contests just because he wanted somebody to hold his hand more. And I just have to say, as you did, well, okay. I mean, there are people out there. I think I give more support than 90% of coaches, but if you need something I can't give you, please. I mean, I don't want you to be held back, but there are costs to that. And I wrote a post just today that's good currency. Like I love the fact that I can be fired. When a client leaves me, that's good feedback. That's currency for my career. That's information. So then I have to gut check myself and say, well, maybe I could do a little bit more. Maybe I could do a little bit better. How am I doing with the rest of my clients? And so, it's a two-way street, and I think it's something that we should all keep in mind.
Absolutely. I think that these are one of those situations where clients leave. It always gives you a good chance to reevaluate yourself. But I think you found in this situation, and I know I've felt this way a lot recently. I offer a daily Zoom call every day, and my clients can check in live. Like, I don't know any other coach that does that. So my availability is like insanely great. I moved to text check-in systems, so the responsiveness is faster. Recently, when I've lost, I felt really good about it because you just know you couldn't personally do anything better. And just if there's any coaches watching this, there have been many times in my career that you feel like you went all in, and you almost feel taken advantage of because you went so hard in on a client. But don't make that be a negative, and don't let that hold you back from going all in on other clients. Because I made that mistake. I think I had a year or two where I was like, I'm just not gonna be like that anymore. And then it really sucks to lose when you know you could be doing better. So I had to pick myself back up out of that mindset. And you know what? It feels way better to lose knowing you did everything. And often those clients come back, when you're in that like Zen state of doing everything you can within reason, of course.
On a different note, when you're providing the kind of feedback a client needs, and it's some insecurity on their side of, how should I be feeling? We prefaced all of this with contest prep is tough. Dieting to that level of almost starvation is just not necessarily the best thing to go through. And so with one of my clients who loves to stay really, really lean year round, but has a ton of muscle, ton of strength, ton of athleticism, just really wants the best of all worlds. I've had to have a conversation about, avoiding those knee-jerk reactions. Like even in trying to achieve a really good maintenance position, you're still gonna have good days and bad days. You're gonna have high energy, low energy. You're gonna look flat some days. You're gonna look full some days. You're trying to achieve a homeostatic level of maintenance, or in a calorie deficit situation, you're going to feel flat most days, but you kind of hang on for those really good days. Like, this is a reminder of why I'm doing this. I had an amazing workout and so forth. So just to keep the pain and discomfort and the challenges of dieting and prepping in that context of a week and a month and in a prep season, how does this feel compared to last time? How am I doing? What are the objective progress metrics that I'm tracking? and just kind of take yourself above that myopic in the moment feeling. That's something I think that's very, very helpful in trying to manage the physical and the psychological or emotional discomfort of prep. But like I said, getting into the people who just have a difficult time, I know because of different phenotypes, some people are just going to struggle to get there, specifically people on the endomorphic side. How many times or how do you even help clients that it's just going to be harder for you? Like so and so over here, so and so over there, they look amazing. And I mean, God bless them. They're working their asses off like everybody else. They're putting in the time and the effort, but it is easier for them. They have the genetics that they can get to a different place with a little less discomfort. For you, I know how badly you are suffering. How do you help them still make it through the process?
Yeah, you have to know the client well and know what will encourage them. But, as a contest prep coach that has worked with a lot of people who have made major transformations, I've always credited myself on being like the biscuits from scratch coach. I have had a lot of these clients. And I think the biggest question is, too, how long is too long to prep? And, if you're driving from Canada to Florida, it's going to take you a lot longer than Georgia to Florida. So, that is one analogy I like to tell people. There's no routine prep really. Like there are some um some mediums, some averages, some things that we typically see. But when someone's coming from that far in their journey, you just have to realize how different you are from everyone else. And it's not that you shouldn't or can't do it. It's just going to take you longer. And we need to set some longer term goals out there. I think that's the biggest thing. Instead of competing in 16 weeks, how about we compete in, sometimes 30 or 40 weeks or even longer, maybe even a year or 2 years. I've had clients it's taken to get to the stage. And also talking about what your expectation is at the end of the prep. And sometimes they surpass what the expectation is, and sometimes we meet it. Sometimes we come up a little bit short of what that is. But honestly, sometimes these are the clients I like to work with the most because at the end of the day, the transformation is more rewarding than whatever the trophy is or would have been at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I want to reference a couple of the studies that we talked about recently in describing hormone variation and modulation as people diet. And the thing that people just often don't realize is how much impact it has when you go into a calorie deficit to just immediately. So in one particular study looking at older women, not competitive, people who are obese trying to lose, in this case, an average of 45 pounds, thyroid hormone T3, resting metabolic rate, everything dropped about 6% just right out of the gate the first week. And then it doesn't come up no matter how many, high calorie days or meals you have and all the things you're trying to do, sleep better and so forth. You're in a calorie deficit. That's the way epigenetically your body survives that. Your body is immediately going into protective mode, and you're just going to have to deal with now a little bit of a slower pace. Even things like diet breaks, studies show, up to 2 weeks of diet breaks. Like, okay, that's great. You may have got a psychological break, a social break, but it's not physically going to change much until you literally come out of that and stay there. Um, Young men, active men with testosterone levels over 800 nanograms per deciliter, within a month or so, their testosterone levels were dropping under 200. And even though when maintenance calories were achieved again, that would slowly come back up. T3, T4 would sometimes lag behind, and so there was a longer hormone recovery. Anybody who really feels poorly, I think in today's medical and primary care world, you can get these tests. You can ask your doctor, hey, whether it's out of pocket or your insurance covers it, can I get an endocrine panel? Can we check my thyroid hormones? Maybe just to get some baselines and test and so forth, because you may find again that you're just not well equipped physically to go through with this. Or maybe you have the means where you can track it even monthly. I mean, what a great way at some point in your career just to understand what's happening physiologically in your body and go through that. And then maybe the next time you don't need it as often. You just have a couple checkpoints to monitor. I know you're big on data like this and having the medical support of people's own healthcare teams. Anything that you suggest when somebody's really feeling like they're just hitting a wall, more so than they think they should?
Yeah, I think this is where testing really comes in. We're seeing a lot of GI distress too with people, and that's usually another factor that a lot of coaches are not considering. Like, coaches that can't fix digestion are just like, yeah, it's normal to not have a bowel movement for 4 days. It's like, no, it's not. So, and that just causes a lot of unnecessary inflammation where you're just already inflamed from the training and cardio that you're doing. So it's one more factor that's not allowing you to recover in a state that you're probably not recovering very well anyhow. So, those are some other testings we like to do with our clients when it's appropriate. If they're 2 weeks out, we might kind of push through and they're looking ready. But if they're like really plateaued, sometimes you do need to take that step back and really look at the blood work, see what's happening. Um, if dizziness is an issue too, they might be deficient in something. So that's definitely huge. Also just checking small things like sleep, are you sleeping well? But there's a lot of things we can use as like plateau breakers, but I think blood work is sometimes learning about how someone's body has shifted. Maybe they're super low estradiol. They've just been pushed so hard. There's hardly any hormone left. And I think a lot of people forget that estradiol helps you mobilize body fat. And that's a big piece of the puzzle for, women and men. I'm currently working with a guy who prepped last year. His coach had him on a very low estrogen type bodybuilding cycle. So there was no aromatase happening. Everything was being blocked. And he's like, I felt miserable and I couldn't get lean. And this year he's taking far less compounds, leaner, bigger. And he's like, I don't feel as bad as I did last year, which is amazing because I look so much better.
Mm. Yeah, it's some amazing things if you just look under the hood once in a while. Lastly, this is one of the things that I talk about a lot because I know most people discount this endeavor, and it's not often an analogy toward other performance sports when it should be, maybe even to a higher degree. Because if you are on the Olympic gymnastic team, for example, and you're going to the Colorado training camp, I mean, you may be devoting 6 months, 9 months, just 8 hours a day. You're not working, you're not in school. That's just your job. We tend to think that doing contest prep, even if you're a pro, making money, doing great, that it's just something you kind of add into your life. And to a degree, certainly your training, your cardio, your time doing meal prep and so forth are chunks that you can just parse out and schedule, but it is a 24/7 saddle on your brain. You just can't escape. Uh, sometimes the hunger, sometimes the biological drives, the mood disruption, the stress, positive or negative, that this date is on the calendar and coming up, and this is my one shot. There's just a lot that goes into that. And I remember Eric Helms giving a stat, and I may be misremembering it a bit, but something like 85% of people who start out on a contest prep just don't compete at that particular show. They stop for some reason. And even though that's an incredibly high number, I tend to think it has to be very close to that, because so much of life just gets in the way. And I would never want to discourage somebody because I know even as a young guy competing for nothing other than, Mr. Novice, amateur, nothing, it was important to me. I liked the self-challenge. I wanted to push myself as hard as possible. I wanted to compete in something that meant that much. And that's powerful in a developmental context. So I'm always on the side of encouraging people to do these kind of things if they know that that's what's coming up. If they're ready, you may need to bail out, you may need to pause, you may need to punt for a year. Uh, that's not necessarily quitting, it's not failing, but you have to know going in that there's a heavy cost, socially, relationally, in your mood, as I keep saying. So, any final encouragement you can give people just to keep going when it's tough?
Yeah, just know that, the pain is temporary and the time's going to pass anyhow. And you can really choose to let that time pass with positive progression or negative progression. And even if it's not a perfect week doing, 80 or 90% of the things you're supposed to do, I think that's the biggest thing. When people don't invest, they're really all out on the investment. Even if you can invest just 20% that week versus throw it away, I think that's really, really important. So invest what you can. There's going to be times that are, rough weeks, vacation weeks, hopefully, if your life allows for it. Prepare for some pauses here and there, but that doesn't mean you stop investing completely and you get back into it.
Yep, guys, I know you can do it. We've been there. We've gone through the tough times. It's going to help you build strength and resilience in other parts of your life. Of course, find a good coach who can help if that's your jam. Whether you have a coach or not, you always have the opportunity to join our Contest Prep University D1 club. Adam, I just received a note last week from one of our members saying this is the best thing she's ever done. Like she can't believe how much support we're giving, even though, she's not even a client of ours. She's just in our $3 a month support group. So Contest Prep University D1 Club, a phenomenal way to be part of a peer community where Adam, myself, our medical director, Dr. Jennifer Souders, our dietetics director, Austin Kiergaard, are all there facilitating conversation, answering direct questions for our members for just $3 a month. Hard to believe. Anyway, message us if you have any questions about that, and we will see you guys next time in Contest Prep University.